Welcome to House TRW. I got my committee name right this time. If you could go ahead and do roll call, we'll get going.
Representative Campbell.
Here.
Representative Connolly. Here. Representative Harshman. Here. Representative Jarvis.
Here.
Representative Provenza.
Here.
Representative Storer.
Here.
Representative Thayer.
Excused. Oh, no,
Representative Wharf.
oh, you're here. Sorry, she's right here.
Representative Wharf. Here. Chairman Byron.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Right, welcome everyone in-house and our 20-plus folks online. Please be nice, leave, turn your cell phones off or silence them. Please work through the chair. Those that are here to testify today, I'm going to be limiting testimony to 60 seconds. 60 seconds. And just to tell everyone online, there are 99% of you are in opposition to the bill. So please keep that in mind. I'll remind you when we get there. But we are going to start with House Bill 136. And to present that bill, it's going to be myself. I'm going to just go ahead and do it from up here. Committee, if you want to look at House Bill 136. This is what I call a little reviser's bill from a bill that that was passed out of the committee last year and enacted into law. And what it allows for, last year's bill, it allows search and rescue, EMTs, and firefighters on the volunteer side to opt into state health insurance. So that's already in law. What we ran into when we went to implement the bill were just some roadblocks. And you can go ahead and flip over to page 3, lines 3 and 4. There was an eligibility issue where everyone is eligible for the ACA, and that bill, there was a gray area where that would have excluded you from opting into this program. And then carrying on page 3, lines 10 through 16 is the meat of the bill. Basically, the burden was on volunteers, and full disclosure, I am one. I will not be able to opt into this program, but speaking on behalf of the volunteer firefighters, my neck of the woods, to monthly submit their existence in the department, their certifications and their current status as an employed volunteer or a eligible volunteer. So we're going to change that to yearly. And in addition, this bill only really benefited a very few folks because the state insurance program has, traditionally the employer, the state, is allowed to contribute towards that number. So when folks went to opt into it, they realized that it was actually significantly more to opt into the state program because their employer, the volunteer entity, whether or not it was the fire department or search and rescue or how their EMSs ran, was not able to help make contributions. Really what we're getting after, folks, is I'll use my station example down in over on the other side of the state, Hoback. When I joined 6 years ago, we had 14 volunteers, we got 5. And it's been really hard to keep small, rural, and even some of our urban areas in Wyoming, what we consider urban. It's been really hard to keep volunteers on a number of levels, but specifically firefighting, EMT, and search and rescue from existing, because folks just it's a huge commitment. They sacrifice a lot of time away from their family. And then when those pagers go off, they run into and chase danger while others are running away from it. So that's a quick summary of the bill. I'm happy to stand for questions from my committee. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess one question I would have would be, there's no fiscal or personnel impact, which is good. But one concern I have is, given that we're cutting all the funding from our counties and from services like firefighters, my concern is that every firefighter is going to become volunteer soon. And I'm just wondering what that impact might be on this program.
I appreciate that, Representative Provenza. I got ready for your questions. That was not one I expected. And I agree with it. We are facing a major issue in our home areas and our districts with exactly what you just described. And that needs to be shared. And we are, a single paid volunteer firefighter, a single paid firefighter in my neck of the woods with benefits and salaries about $125,000 a year. And you have a concern that's real. I mean, these are services that we expect to, when we dial 911, that we show up. So I think you have a great point. You know, it does not require the counties. It's giving them an option. So if they start to identify the need to do some more recruiting, besides just, besides putting an ad in the paper and getting these folks through training, it's just another carrot where we can try to get some of these folks to sacrifice so much of their time and energy and brain power and mental health to go save people. So that does not limit it to firefighting, includes search and rescue and the good EMTs they're helping both search and rescue and firefighting, and we need them. So yeah, I think that's a major concern that I share. Luckily, it's up to the county if they want to opt into this program. Any other questions on the bill? Representative Campbell.
Just a comment. So thank you for bringing this bill. What I do appreciate about it is the may language. As we know with any bill, there's a huge difference between may and shall. And so this gives our counties and our municipalities the option too, which I appreciate. So thank you.
Representative Jarvis.
So I just have a quick question when I look at this, because I just see officials, so when they say insurance plan, and our, being a public employee, we are all offered options, so they're plans. So we might want to consider looking at that. I know we're not at the amendment stage, but when you're looking at like a plan per se, does that make them only eligible to insure themselves and not their family, or to choose the heighted, like, I'm just wondering that specifically.
Thank you, Representative Jarvis, for bringing that up. Certainly would entertain that. I'm not overly concerned, but certainly when we went to implement this last summer, it was an uphill battle with some of the language and the legislative intent. So I appreciate that comment. Committee, any other questions? Representative Thayer.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Again, I just to tag on to Representative Jarvis, I want to just make sure that our staff firefighters or staff, let's say employed, are not having to pay for their insurance and then these people. So I just want to be clear that we're making sure that there's programs, or like in the city of Rollins, they pay a percent, they pay an amount, and they so choose to pick a different plan than the city, the municipality only pays a certain amount. So I want to make sure that's covered.
Certainly, and we can discuss any of these when we do get to, if we get to the amendment stage. Representative Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a good bill. And I know from some of my constituents that even with this bill, the premiums are high. And a lot of people, a lot of the volunteers still can't really take advantage of it. But it's another tool that helps recruitment and retention and gives them a little more options. So, thanks.
Thank you, Representative Connolly. All right, let's go ahead and open this up for public testimony. Is anyone in the room here to speak in favor of this bill? Excellent. We have none online, so if you are here to speak in favor of this reviser's bill to what was passed last year, please come fill the chairs. Introduce yourselves, and we'll start on our left, your right today.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Chief Brent Godfrey from the Bighorn Basin. I'm here with the Wyoming Fire Chiefs Association to support the amendment in this bill. As the great representative stated, this gives us tools in our toolbox to recoup and keep firefighters in the service longer and take some of the burden off of them. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, will you let the community know, how long have you been in the fire service?
Me, 49 years.
49 years. Thank you for your service.
Well done.
Good afternoon, Chris Coe, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, committee, Chris Coker. I am the Worland Fire Chief and Washington County Fire Warden. I represent the Wyoming Fire Chiefs and the Rural Fire Association of Wyoming. This bill is obviously a work to fix oversight unintended consequences that was passed last year. Provides an opportunity for recruitment and retention, as Chief Godfrey indicated, that is simply just another tool in the toolbox. Whether the rules indicate what you can do it individually or for a family, sure, there's certainly costs, so there's no fiscal cost or burden to the state of Wyoming. And the ability for, whether it be search and rescue, EMS, or fire, to be able to potentially help fund that if their agency has the fiscal ability to do that is appreciated. So it just takes some of the constraints off there. So much appreciated.
Thank you, Chief. How long have you been up with that service in your neck of the woods?
I've been with Worland Fire 27 years.
Thank you for your service.
Mr. Chairman, Lanny Applegate, representing the Wyoming Fire Chiefs Association. I was a volunteer fireman for 31 years, and I wish we'd have had this back then. And I would just ask that you guys support this bill. My involvement with the fire service, I'll have 50 years this year. So, and I'm proud of every year we did it. And I know Representative Harshman had helped us a good number of times throughout the years, and Representative Provenza certainly did a big one here just not too many years ago. And other than that, I just ask you guys for your support.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
what you do.
Applegate. Really appreciate that, and thank you for 50 years. That's impressive. And yeah, I'm sorry that we didn't quite get it right last time, and I'm glad we have an option to get it right this time. So anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone else, anyone here speak against the bill? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Representative Harshman has moved the bill, seconded by Representative Worf. Thank you. Let's go ahead and work the bill, and certainly open to some of those amendments that we discussed. I think that could be a small drafting error, but let's start on page 1. Any amendments? Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to add an S into everywhere we see plan, so that they have the options and it doesn't just put them at only being able to insure themselves, but they can also ensure they have the option to look at all of the options available.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Storr. Discussion on the amendment. Representative Campbell.
So here's I'll vote against the amendment because I think the singular plan refers to the state group insurance plan. Singular. So because it is the state group insurance plan, I imagine there are options under there, but it's referring to the state group insurance plan.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Any other comments on that? And committee, I'm happy to take this back to LSO and dig a little deeper, no matter where it lands here in committee today. So do appreciate the good bringer of the amendment, because I think she's looking out for the best of the bill. But I think we could have this and we could bring it up potentially now or in another reading. Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just going to push back a smidge, because even if it is one plan or multiple plans and we're wrong, we cover ourselves by adding an S.
Appreciate that. Any more discussions on it? Sensing urge to vote. All those,
Clarification,
Thayer?
are we voting on Representative Jarvis?
on the amendment, yep. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That amendment has failed. I will work on that with you, Representative Jarvis, if we have the opportunity. Any other amendments, committee, on this bill as we read through it? Page 1, page 2 is current language. Page 3 is the changes. Representative Thayer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just in paragraph B is submitting their monthly premiums. I just want to be careful, again, that we are not paying more than we pay on our staff volunteer firefighters. And I don't know, I haven't thought of my head's not in it quite yet today. On how we could word that, but that on the municipalities or counties, how they're running their plans or.
So I can comment on that. Traditionally, these become automatic withdrawals. So I see, I think you're trying to avoid having a burden and cause problem. Is that the intent of your question, or?
Well, maybe I missed, so the municipality or the county is gonna pay these premiums for the volunteers?
They may.
They may. They may. And so I'm just saying that there are some municipalities, local governments that don't pay 100%. And I want to make sure that we're cognizant of not setting a precedence of paying 100% for the top plan, that they get to choose their plans. So,
I think we are covered. I do recognize your concern, but I think as it's drafted,
okay.
we're good on that. Any other amendments on page 3, committee? Page 4, any other discussion on the bill? Question being called. This is going to be a roll call vote on House Bill 136.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for House Bill 136. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly.
I'm proud to vote aye.
Representative Harshman.
Aye.
Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Wharf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 9 ayes.
I will find someone to carry that on the floor. Representative Storr. Okay, we are going to move on to House Bill 299. We are joined today. Thank you, Fire Chiefs Association, for being here.
Over 100 years of experience
Between the three of them.
in those things.
Okay, committee, we're on House Bill 299, and we are happy to welcome Representative Posey to take us through his bill. Representative Posey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here to present House Bill 299 and the amendments to that. No, it's an act relating to online gaming, and it refers to statutes 924-101 ANX and 924-102 B1 and capital F are amended as read. And this allows and a qualified gaming entity, any of the following, and that's on section 1 and the definitions. It just allows the Wind River tribes of the Warm Valley to participate in online gaming. This is a bill that was worked on quite extensively before I became part of the legislature. I know Representative Lloyd, members of the Shoshone Gaming Commission, the Northern Arapaho Gaming Commission, I believe Clinton Wigan from Eastern Shoshone, Jenny Wildcat from Northern Arapaho. So the online sports wagering regulation, if it's approved, the commission, the Gaming Commission, State Gaming Commission, would promulgate rules to implement this chapter. There was some discussion regarding GeoField and some parameters regarding the GeoField, if they're off or on the reservation and what's allowed there. So I guess it's a pretty simple bill, and it's something that my constituents would like to see pass through from the Warm Valley. And I'm sure we're going to have some testimony online here on Zoom when I am done here. So it's a pretty simple bill. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Posey. Do you want to walk us, do you have that bill in front of you? Do you want to walk us through page by page, or you
Yes, I will walk you through.
can just do a
page by
brief one
page.
for my committee? That would be great.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start in section 1, and it talks about definitions. And a qualified gaming entity means any of the following. On line 4, page 2, they replace that with a gaming entity that offers online sports wagering through computers, digital platforms, or mobile applications in not less than 3 jurisdictions in the United States pursuant to a state regulatory statute. 10 through 14 includes the Northern Arapaho Tribe of the Wind River Reservation and the Eastern Shoshone Tribe of the Wind River Reservation. Line 16 talks about the online sports wagering regulation and the rulemaking. Starting on line 19 through 23, it talks about the commission will promulgate rules to implement this chapter. And the rules the commission promulgate shall establish standards and procedures for online sports wagering and associated sports wagering systems. Those rules will include, as we move on to page 3, one is the governance of the conduct of online sports wagering and the system of wagering associated with online sports wagering, including the following: 6 through 8, subsection F, a requirement for each sport wagering operator to use a geolocation system to ensure, and that is scratched with all of the following, which is inserted there in red. 10 through 12 is a change is A, patron offering an online sports wager is physically present in a state when making the wager unless otherwise authorized by the commission. The 14 through 20 is new language to the amendment, or it's new amendment. Section 2, no online sports wager is accepted from a patron who is physically present on the lands of the Northern Arapaho Tribe of the Wind River Reservation or the Eastern Shoshone Tribe of the Wind River Reservation. This subdivision shall not apply to online sports wagering conducted by the Northern Arapaho Tribe and the Eastern Shoshone Tribe. And it'll go into effect on page 4, effective July 1st, 2025.
Thank you to the good Representative Posey for that explanation of the bill, and good job on your first bill. It's not easy. Committee, any questions of the good representative? Don't go far. I'm gonna stick around for a sec. I know there's some folks writing notes down, checking the green book, but I'm gonna go ahead and invite Representative Lloyd Larson up. Any other colleagues in the room, electeds that want to testify on this bill, please come fill the black chairs behind these two representatives, or hop right up next to them and we'll get going. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill is a component of a number of gaming bills that the Appropriations Committee heard over the interim. When Appropriations was assigned to hear the gaming stuff last year, one of the things we looked at in a broader sense was this gaming. This component goes back to the time, you'll recall, when we created online sports wagering, right? And in that, we talk about there that a gaming entity that offers, this is on page 2, that offers online sports wagering through computers, digital, yada, yada, and has to have 3 jurisdictions in the United States. Will that automatically cut out the 2 tribes because they don't have any other jurisdictions, but yet they have far more experience in gaming than the rest of the state, okay? And so we wanted, that was something that was considered to update that to make sure that they weren't then being excluded from the ability to online sports gaming. But then the other part of that the good sponsor of the bill brought to your attention is that when we talk about protecting online wagering altogether, but on this sports wagering, we do this geofencing stuff to make sure that we are where we are. And we wanted, again, this was kind of some side rails, and it was part of a compromise in our conversation with the Gaming Commission and the members of the tribes to say, but those that are wagering on the geographic boundaries of the Wind Reservation, we want them the two tribes to benefit from that. And so that's what that side rail does, as he said.
Thank you, Representative Larson, for that great explanation. Committee, any questions of our good colleagues? Representative Wharf, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess on page 3, under section F, that'd be in line 6 and 8, where it talks about the geolocation system. Is that to prohibit people from betting off the tribal lands, or is it to stop the people? Because it's confusing to me. I can't tell if it's telling the people that belong to the tribes that they're being blocked out, but everybody else is allowed in. Can you please explain that?
Thank you, Representative Wharf. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Worth. The way I understand that, and it was applying, and so let's just look at the state as a whole. So if you're online sports wagering in Wyoming, when they take that wager, that's the mechanism to verify that you're actually in Wyoming and it's not coming from someplace else. And we're doing the same, and then we just take this micro and we're doing the same thing. So if this sports wager is coming, because there's a benefit to the tribes, if it's coming within their geographic boundaries, and so it would identify that that's where they're coming from.
Follow up, Representative Wharf, please.
And so maybe I'm a little thick, but I'm still not following whether, because it sounds like to me, if like where I live, if I choose to go online and participate, that I'm allowed to participate, as long as I'm in Wyoming. The people that live on the reservation, are they being excluded or are they being included? Does the geofence block them in any way, shape, or form versus not blocking me from being able to participate?
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Wharf. What it does is, I don't think it's blocking, but it's not for those wagers that are taking place on the reservation are benefiting the tribes.
Thank you, Representative Larson. Thank you, Representative Wharf, for the question. I think we could go on to lines 14 through 21 on page 3 to maybe add some clarity to that. Committee, any other questions of the good bringers? Okay, seeing none, great job. Don't go far. Do we have any agency that wants to comment on this bill? Any other electeds too? Please, if you would like to comment on this bill, sneak on up. Seeing none, we're going to go to agency. Please introduce yourself for the record and go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Nick Laramendi, Wyoming Gaming Commission. Just to clarify, the page 3, lines 14 through 20, the Gaming Commission currently has promulgated rules that also do this. And to answer Representative Wharf's question, if you are on sovereign lands, you are blocked. You are not allowed to place a wager if you are on tribal lands. You have to be within the boundaries of the state of Wyoming and away from the restricted areas. So this would allow the tribes to have online sports wagering throughout the state and include those restricted areas.
Thank you, Director, for that clarification. Representative Harshman.
So, Mr. Chairman and Director, just so, in the original statute, the online sports wagering piece, these vendors, so would the tribes then become kind of a vendor or the owner of it?
Mr. Chair, Representative Harshman, this would allow the tribes to become an operator for online sports wagering.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Representative Harshman, for that question. Committee, any other questions of the agency?
Mr. Chairman, when you're done.
Representative Storr.
Thank you, Chairman Byron. I'm curious, so on the Wind River Reservation, there are a number of private lands that are not owned by tribal members. And so I think they would be not considered, as the bill identified, lands of either of the tribes. So is it possible to geofence those out, or would they be included in the geofencing?
Director.
Chairman Byron, Representative Storr, we have a very extensive map, and we worked actually with the tribes. If you look in our office, it's actually it's a digital map, and we see real-time pin drops, and it has all of the boundaries. Even there's little areas of land within the boundaries that are exempt from that, and then I can send a picture of if you'd like to see it.
Thank you, Director. Committee, any other questions along those lines? Representative Larson.
Mr. Chairman, fee lands, the fee lands that are inside the reservations, right?
Correct.
And for the committee, we did have an opportunity to do some education through the director and the agency, and it's pretty fascinating to learn how accurate these pin drops are. Representative Worf.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, we just talked about a bill yesterday that was very similar to this bill. And I guess I want to respect our good neighbors, our good sovereign neighbors. I want to allow them to do it, but I'm a little nervous that we're allowing the activity to take place in the state. And I wonder if they've thought about any obligation that they would have to ensure that people that deal with addictions that might run into some issues with this, some of the counties, some of the costs that could associate with that. If the money's going to your tribal partnership here, how would you suppose that we could deal with people outside of the reservation that might be having problems with addictive behavior based on online gaming?
Thank you, Representative Worf. Representative Posey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Orr. Through the National Indian Gaming Act, which was passed in 1988, it allowed tribes basically told tribes they have to do a revenue allocation plan. Maybe 10% of the revenue goes to education, 5% could go to healthcare. I'm just throwing some arbitrary numbers out there. I know for Class 3 gaming and parts of Class 2 gaming, tribes have to follow and develop those plans. I'm not too sure how that goes in reference to online gaming, or online betting. I understand the effects of addiction and some of the other things that come along with gaming. But there is a system in place, at least in reference to Class 2 and Class 3 gaming, that tribes have to submit those to the National Indian Gaming Commission for approval, and that's how the money is divvied out.
Thank you.
If that's helpful.
Thank you, Representative Posey. Thank you for that question, Representative Worf. And we may also, Director, if you have any comments, my co-chair here mentioned that it probably is currently in statute how that allocation works, so we can confirm that, unless the director wants to comment on it.
Thank you, Chairman Byron. With those areas, if they were to go online, that would fall under the purview of the State Gaming Commission. So they would follow the responsible gaming rules that we have promulgated for online sports wagering in that respect.
Thank you, Director. Committee, any other questions of these folks right now? Representative Connolly.
Just since I don't know a lot about this gambling stuff, just a clarification on page 2, lines, it's 21 and 22, where it says The rules of the commission promulgates shall establish standards and procedures for online sports wagering and associated sports wagering systems. Is the system, tell me what the system is.
Thank you for that question, Representative Connolly. And this is, that is current language on lines 18 through 23. So Director, can you comment on that? Similar to what we just discussed.
Thank you, Chairman Byron, Representative Connolly. That's for the vendors that offer services to the operators.
Thank you for that clarifier. Committee, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Anyone else in the room that would like to testify on House Bill 299, please come up and fill the seats. And we do not have anyone registered online for House Bill 299, so please introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Travis McNevin here on behalf of the Northern Arapahoe Business Council. Certainly I appreciate Representative Posey bringing this bill, and certainly the Northern Arapahoe Tribes supports this. It is really very, very simple what we're trying to do here. As an operator, when the state went to and legalized sports betting, the three jurisdiction basically just boxed out, to use a basketball term, Northern Arapahoe and Eastern Shoshone, as they are unable to operate in three jurisdictions. So the first component of this bill adds those in so that if they so chose to do, they could file with the state like any other operator to get the permits to do it and operate a sports betting within the state of Wyoming. Northern Arapahoe does have a brick and mortar sports betting facility on the reservation, but they are unable to do an online like the rest of the state simply because of that kind of box out situation. The second half of the bill with the geofencing, as the director mentioned, they do have that in statute since this became an issue. And so legal counsel is looking at that, and we may bring an amendment should you all choose to advance this bill that may maybe strike the second half of that bill. And so I'm waiting for verification on that if the rules that were promulgated and mentioned by the director are sufficient and already accomplishing what the second half of this is seeking to do. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will certainly take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McNiven. Committee, any questions? Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McNiven, just to help me out, because I didn't get to go to the gaming 101 discussion earlier. So this allows online sports wagering, but that is different than interactive gaming that House Bill 162 dealt with, correct?
Correct. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I represent Storr, correct.
Okay.
But it.
Go ahead,
Just
Representative
follow
Storr,
up,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just to, maybe if you could explain the difference so we could all understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr. I do not consider myself an expert on all things gaming with that huge clarifier out there. Sports wagering, you're wagering on athletic events, anything that's a legal type of sports entertainment sort of thing that I'm sure Director could answer that much better. The previous bill was what is known as, your poker, your roulettes, all of those sorts of games that would be considered more class 3 games that are usually in a brick and mortar casino establishment. And so that would be the difference.
Thank you, Mr. McNiven, for the question. Thank you, Representative Storr. Committee, any other questions? Okay, anyone else in the room that would like to testify on House Bill 299? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure? Representative Harshman has moved the bill. Seconded by Representative Campbell. I'll go to my left. Committee, discussion on the bill, amendments. Representative Storr, thank you for that question just now. Yeah, it is my understanding, and as we've learned about this, it does allow them to basically become another vendor, but only within the statute that the department currently allows. So it is simply that sports wagering. Committee, let's go ahead and work the bill. It's been moved, seconded. Page 1, any amendments? Representative Provenza was busy at the Green Book. I thought we might see something, but she's just doing her homework on the fly. Most detailed person in the committee. I really appreciate that. Any, page 2? Page 3? Amendments? Page 4 is the effective date, so hearing none. Representative Provenza's call for the question on House Bill 299, online sports wagering amendments. This will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for House Bill 299. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman.
Aye.
Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Wharf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you, committee. We are going to move on to House Bill 286. It is 2 o'clock. We have an hour to work this bill, and we will get through it today.
Love those expectations.
I'm not going upstairs till we do. I'm channeling my inner Representative Harshman from last year's revenue, and we like to stay and get the work done, the people's work. We go ahead and bring the sponsors of the bill up. House Bill 286, Representative Schmidt, welcome back to House TRW. Go ahead and walk us through House Bill 286.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is to kind of give you some points of this bill, and then I can walk you through the bill if you'd like. If you're like me, you've probably got a few emails on this bill, and I'm sure you've all read it over and over, so if you want me to do that, I will. This bill it's a mountain lion bill, but it's probably as much about mule deer as it is mountain lions, maybe more. And by that, I mean our mule deer populations statewide have been dwindling at a fairly rapid pace for a decade or more, maybe 2 decades. But I've got some numbers here. I went out and I've done some quick searches to try to get some information to support the reasons I put this bill together. 10 years ago, our mule deer numbers statewide were around 450,000 animals, plus or minus a few. 4 years later, they were down to 345,000 animals. In 2021, before our brutal winter of 22-23, those numbers fell under 300,000 to about 290,000 animals. Where I'm from, my part of the state, we have a world-class mule deer herd over there known as the Wyoming Range Mule Deer Herd. That herd once numbered as many as 50,000 animals. We were down to 30,000 before the brutal winter. They now number 8,000 to 12,000, depending on where you go for your information. Adult mountain lions are reported to kill 1.6 mule deer or deer per week. That's about 80 plus animals a year per lion, per adult lion. Game and Fish studies have shown that fawn losses due to predation by black bears, mountain lions, and coyotes are upwards of 40%. And when you add in natural disasters, accidents, and disease, that accounts for another 10 to 15%. So we're looking at close to 60% fawn loss every spring. If you go out and ask any landowner, any rancher that raises sheep or cattle, ask them if they can build a herd at a 60% loss of their young every spring. I think we all know the answer to that. Today in Wyoming, we take about 350 mountain lions annually on an average. Estimates of mountain lion populations are hard to define, but some of the research I've done have said there's upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 lions statewide. Game and Fish says they have a robust population of mountain lions. I'm sure we've all seen in the papers where we've had mountain lion incidents throughout our cities in Wyoming. You know, they found them on power poles in Gillette and Casper, I think even here in Cheyenne. That's kind of an indication we got a lot of lions and some young ones looking for a place to call home. We can't control accidents. We can't control diseases when it comes to fawn losses, but we can manage predators to a certain degree. Coyotes right now are listed as a predator, and we all know what that means. They can be taken by any means, anytime. Black bears are another huge predator of mule deer fawns. There is a black bear bill coming forth. I think we've already heard it once, and it's been passed through committee. Mountain lions. I lost my place here. Hang on a minute. Be patient with me. So taking a few more mountain lions, it's not a complete answer to the mule deer issue, but it's one of the key indicators, or one of the key things that we can do, that we have some control over if we control predators, including mountain lions, to help with our fawn losses and on the adult deer population that they take every year. I think that's about it. I think that's about all I've got to say. But to wrap it up, again, this is as much about mule deer or more than it is the mountain lion. Mountain lion is just one of the pieces of the puzzle that we need to try to control to help our statewide suffering mule deer populations.
Thank you, Representative Schmidt. And I will default to you as it's your bill. You know, I think that the committee has heard from some folks on this one. Hardest working committee in the House. I know we've read the bill, gone through the bill, so I'll default to you if you want to do a quick, just the changes, or if you're satisfied. I'm also happy to hand it over to your co-sponsor. What is your preference?
I can walk you through it real quick.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to read the first piece from lines 1 on page 1, lines 1 to 13, because it pretty much spells out the whole plan. This is an act relating to game and fish requiring an annual mountain lion hunting season, prohibiting hunt areas, hunt area mortality limits, statewide mortality limits, bag limits, and hours for taking mountain lions for mountain lion hunting seasons, specifying that a mountain lion may be taken during any hour of the day, requiring the Game and Fish Commission to establish possession tags for mountain lions as specified, authorizing mountain lions to be trapped or snared, authorizing persons with other specified licenses to take mountain lions, and repealing mountain lion pursuit seasons, providing definitions, making conforming amendments, require rulemaking, and providing for effective dates. On page 2, it gives us under 23.2.110, section 1, 23.2.110, it discusses and gives definitions for what's prohibited in this bill. Things that are in place right now with the Game and Fish that it will prohibit if this bill goes forward. On page 4, under 23.1.302, that's the powers and the duties under the Game and Fish statutes now that they have. And there are some exceptions here if this bill goes forward. Page 4, line 9, under II, says to establish zones and areas within the trophy game animals except mountain lions as provided by Wyoming Statute 23.2.110 may be taken as game animals with a license or with the exception of gray wolves, and deletes in the same manner as predatory animals without a license, giving proper regard to livestock game industries in particular areas. The next section is to establish a possession tag to be provided to a person who killed a mountain lion with a valid license before the skull and pelt of the mountain lion may be sold, gifted, or mounted. The reason that's in there is we still want these lions turned into the Game and Fish to keep the biological work active and up to date. We want every one of these lions turned in that no matter who takes them or how they're taken. And I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory from there.
Thank you, Representative Schmidt. Representative Haraldson, welcome to House TRW, a committee you used to serve on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be here, and I appreciate you guys taking the opportunity today to hear this bill. This is actually a conversation that started, it would have been probably about a year and a half ago. And where this started, I guess maybe even to tell a story beyond that. I'll tell a story when I was 12 years old. Whenever I was actually 11, I testified in front of the Wyoming legislature to lower the hunt age from 14 to 12. And I was part of the first group of 12-year-old hunters. It was, for me, it was a pretty proud moment. I got to go and shake my legislator's hand and help change a little bit of statute that gave me the opportunity to go mule deer hunting a little earlier. First day out mule deer hunting, my dad and I went out, and as a 12-year-old, we had the opportunity to have just an amazing hunt day. Honestly, looking back, probably should have worked a little harder and gotten something a little bit bigger, but 23 bucks in one day that we saw. I mean, mule deer everywhere. My childhood was every draw, you knew you'd kick out bucks. You knew you'd kick out does. You knew you'd kick out mule deer, because that's just what was in that country, Rimrock country off of Platte County Goshen line. We got to see, just in the next couple of years, we got to see CWD come in and be a problem. The reality is CWD has taken a toll on our mule deer. And I would say watching 2003, 4, 5, 6, up into even 10, 12, we saw CWD take its toll. But one of the things we started seeing is we started seeing way less CWD type situations. We started seeing older animals with CWD, and we started seeing something take place, a hardening of the herds to CWD. But one thing we also got to see was this: we started seeing a different change happen. My first 34 years of life, I saw 2 mountain lions. That was it. And honestly, it was a freak cool deal. We were up on this ridge, my dad and I saw 2 running ridge line. I'd never thought I'd ever see it in my lifetime. Seeing a mountain lion without running them with dogs or anything, that's pretty rare, right? I would go, and just to give you an example, I wear out a pair of boots about every 2 years. And I'm not talking cheap boots, expensive boots. I put hundreds and hundreds of miles on my boots every single fall. And then I became a legislator. And I put way less miles on my boots. So that was 34. I'm now 38 years old. In the last 4 years, I've seen 5 more mountain lions. Doing way less in the country. And I'll tell you about 3 of them. Last year, my kids drew Area 7 Type 1 elk tags, and we archery hunted the peak area outside of Douglas, Wyoming, and we pushed hard on that mountain, had a great time, got into some elk, had a great time. But one of the things that was really interesting to me was this. There was one evening we were hiking out, about 3rd day into our September season. We came over this ridge, and about me to Representative Steve Harshman, I had a mountain lion staring me straight in the eyes. Yep, that was freaky, right? I mean, you're headlamped, and you're like, oh, there's one. And I thought, wow, that's wild. I never thought, that's the closest I've bounced into one, right? So then we're gonna fast forward about 6 more days, cat number 2. This one was during about a noon hour. We were calling on a stand and had a mountain lion come in on a call, cow calling. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward about 7, 8 more days towards the end of our September season. We saw our 3rd cat. 3 cats in one hunting season. And we were probably about 15 to 20 different miles apart between each one of these sightings. But this is the thing that's really interesting. I saw 2 mule deer bucks. You guys, this is a huge shift from my childhood to what we're seeing today. 3 cats. I've got another one of those 5 cats on the edge of a cornfield. We're talking, there's not a pine tree or a rock anywhere to be seen for miles. We got a mountain lion on the edge of the cornfield. I got game camera pictures at my house, which is 2 miles from the interstate in the irrigated wheatland flats, of mountain lions running the river bottoms. They never used to be down there. Turn around, and we've got another one where we're finding that these cats are moving their way out of the mountains. Why? Because we just don't have any deer left in the mountains. We're seeing our area completely shift. I run an outdoor ministry. I take first-time hunters into the field. I will not even do a mule deer hunt anymore. And the reason being is because I don't want to do that to kids. Because I don't want them to have to do that. My daughter, her first year, we were going to get her a mule deer. We walked over 130 miles and she never took and put a round in a firearm. Why? Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, but I do know this: mountain lions are a huge part of it. So as we look at this bill and we look at the reason, Utah has done this exact thing. BYU University has been working as they've been collaring cats as well as mule deer. They're trying to get an idea of exactly what they're looking at, and they're finding that the fawn crops are just being decimated by mountain lions. You're gonna hear from houndsmen saying there's not an issue, but I believe that there is. One of the other issues that we're finding is the fact that large males are being killed. Why? Because they don't go towards quota and they make money, and that's awesome, and I have no problem with that. But the natural pecking order is being eliminated in our mountain lion populations, where the large males are not circling back through and killing off the kittens like they used to. I have a constituent who, whenever they heard about this bill and this conversation, said, "Hey, I've got a game camera picture of 5 mountain lions in my chicken coop." And we're talking a female and full-grown kittens, 5 of them in a chicken coop. We've got stock tanks up by Hewlett where we've got 7, 8 cats around a single tank in the middle of the day. You guys, we're at a point where cats have kind of taken over. So I have a lot more stories, but I'll save you guys the stories. And I would just ask, as you consider this, that we are at a point and place where these are not predatory status. They've not been brought into that predatory consideration, but what they are is, hey, we've opened up the opportunity to have a conversation about when you're walking down that trail and you have one that close. Luckily, I had a sidearm. I mean, I could protect my children, but at that point, I could have also maybe harvested that cat. And we could have had ourselves at a point where we could have had taken one more out of that pecking order and just started cleaning this problem up, giving our mule deer an opportunity and a chance to survive. And I believe this is a way we can do it. So with that, I'd stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative Haroldson. Committee, any questions of our 2 good colleagues? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Haroldson, I remember last year we had some conversations about just how many elk are in your area, and you just trip over elk all the time. And I can't help but think about our only predator that's really taken elk down in your area would be mountain lions. And then in addition, the other concern with chronic wasting disease, mountain lions also help with that. And, you know, I'll also say, Mr. Chairman, I sit on ag, and the other day we heard very similar arguments the other day about bears, that bears were taking down our mule deer population. So I just want to push back on some of the storytelling we're hearing today. While there might be more mountain lions, there are far more concerning things that are impacting our populations. I mean, look at the habitat loss that our mule deer are facing. Look at the severity of the weather that our mule deer are facing. So I just want to point that out to the bringers of this bill. Like, sure, we're seeing that predators have some impact, but they were here before we were, and the mule deer populations were doing just fine.
She was going to get to a question.
Can I answer it?
Briefly, Representative Haroldson, yeah, we have a lot of folks that drove a very long way that like to testify on this, so please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, I would agree in the fact that there's lots that are impacting our mule deer populations. And so at the end of the day, this is a way we can attack one aspect of it. And as long as mule deer are around, they'll predominantly be the target for these mountain lions over elk, because they're a lot easier to get at.
Thank you, Representative Haroldson. Committee, any other questions? All right, colleagues, please don't go far. I'm going to go ahead and open it up now for public testimony. I'm going to start with any other electeds in the room that want to speak to this. Representative Erickson, you want to bite the apple? No, okay. Let's go. Let's go to agency then. Please come on up, fill the chairs. introduce yourself. We have a lot of folks online, so appreciate you being here today and appreciate some info from the department.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Representatives. Angie Bruce, Director, Wyoming Game and Fish. With me today, you know Chief Game Warden, Chief of Wildlife, Dan Smith. But I also brought an expert with me as well, and this is the supervisor of our large carnivore section, Dr. Dan Thompson. And so if we get into a little bit more of the weeds, I thought it would be good to have Dan here and have some of that expertise. So I'm just going to briefly talk about impacts to the commission and then turn it over to Dan, the Chief of Wildlife, for a few more details regarding the bill. So this bill removes the Game and Fish Commission's authority over managing mountain lions. Excuse me. It removes the department's ability to provide science-based hunting season recommendations to our commission. It removes the ability for the public input into how mountain lions are managed. Currently, our commission sets mountain lion seasons every 3 years with public engagement process. However, they also have been very responsive to conditions that come up between those 3-year periods and react to things such as a very bad winter conditions. This bill allows for unlimited harvest of mountain lions statewide. It removes our ability to adjust our season limitations based on population concerns or what the public wants. And then finally, it gives the federal government an open door to question our ability to manage mountain lions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Smith.
Thank you, Director Bruce. Chief Smith.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Dan Smith. I'm the Chief Game Warden for the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. I thank you for your time this afternoon. As Director Bruce said, you know, this basically the bill takes away the commission's authority to set seasons, to set hunt areas, to set bag limits or mortality limits, and to set shooting hours. So they're effectively removing the commission's ability to manage mountain lions. There is a fiscal impact to that, assuming that every big game license hunter was able to hunt a mountain lion during season and not purchase a license. In 2024, mountain lion license revenue totaled $213,481. If you take away those who bought a deer license or an elk license or an antelope license and would assume that they wouldn't buy an antelope license, that would reduce that to $56,402. So a bit of a fiscal impact there. When you look at non-resident prices for a reduced price elk tag, it's $303. For a reduced price deer license, it's $34. Antelope's $34. But a non-resident mountain lion license is $373. So it'd be way easier to go buy a Dauphin cow-calf license, way cheaper, and go hunt mountain lions that way. So we'll lose a bit of revenue that way. And then while it does take away our ability to manage wildlife, as noted, they are staying in trophy game, and so statutorily we're obligated to pay damage then. So while we'll have no management authority, we will still investigate damage claims from mountain lions, and we will still have to pay that, and that does come out of sportsman license dollars. This bill, currently for mountain lions, we set seasons every 3 years. We take input, just general input from the public during that entire time. And then on the 3-year season, we have regulations that go out to the public, and then there's a formal comment period of time that comes back to the commission. With removing management, that would no longer be possible to take because we wouldn't be able to set seasons. However, we have in the past listened to our public when they said that. So for example, in the Wyoming range, when we had the bad winter of 22-23, that next year we increased license quotas or mortality limits by 50% in those hunt areas to try to address a reduced mountain lion or reduced mule deer population and addressing mountain lions, because we do recognize that mountain lions do eat deer, but there also are a lot of other effects on mule deer, as you've noted. This bill does direct the commission to develop a trapping snaring regulation for mountain lions. We currently don't use that in our current management of mountain lions because we just don't feel it's necessary. We can meet our management objectives through regular hunting, and so we haven't allowed snaring and trapping, but this bill would introduce that into it. During the fall, a hunter could take an unlimited number of mountain lions if they possessed a valid antelope, deer, or elk license. My interpretation of that is that then they would be able to use that license during the time that their license was valid, But for the rest of the year, they would still need to buy a mountain lion license if it's open year-round without restriction. It removes all bag limits, as I've noted, so a single license, in the case like Representative Harrelson said, if you see a lion, you'd be able to harvest it if you had a license, but it wouldn't limit you to that just one, so you could, however many you bumped into. With the exceptions of the limitations that are in that bill, the season setting, the hours, the things that I've already listed, Commission Regulation Chapter 42 addresses mountain lion seasons, and all other provisions of that would still apply. So the equipment that you could use, with the exception of traps, the use of dogs, registering harvest, the protection of dependent young and females, all that would still fall under that. But again, we wouldn't have the ability to set any seasons in response to that. And so that still would require you to register your harvest, as they pointed out, and that's great. We do want to collect that data, but then what would we use the data for, because we can't set any seasons with it? The bill requires Game and Fish to produce a lion possession tag. It does not establish a fee structure for that, so we're going to assume that that is at no cost to the hunter. But you know, in order to lawfully possess a trophy game animal, they would either need to have that possession tag or a interstate game tag. We do have, as an example, and I'll let Dr. Thompson discuss it further, but in Hunt Area 15, which is the south part of the Bighorns, we already have an unlimited year-round season. We've had that on since 2010, but we cannot detect any change in mule deer populations in that hunt area based on us harvesting that. And in 21, 22, Dan will correct me if I'm mistaken, we had the highest number of lions harvested that we've ever recorded, and we still are not seeing a change in mule deer populations. So I guess the bottom line is this: our current management plan and our public process that involves the public, where we can develop mortality limits. We can call on local expertise and opinion. We can visit with the public and our landowners, and we can put that together to come up with a management strategy for mountain lions in hunt areas. That flexibility would all be removed by this bill.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Appreciate it. Committee, any questions of Chief Smith? All right, Dr. Thompson, please proceed.
Mr. Chair, I was just here for questions.
For support. Okay, well, you're looking good being supportive. Well,
Thank you.
If you're good, we're going to go ahead and, committee, any questions of the agency? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Thompson, could you speak to the relationship with mountain lions and potentially chronic wasting disease, mule deer? Like, do they tend to eat mule deer that are either only fawns, or do they sometimes predate on mule deer that have chronic wasting disease? Do you have any information to speak to that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative Provenza, yes, we're actually in the middle of a very in-depth study right now in the Casper Bates Hole area to assess that from a different standpoint, from the lens of a mountain lion, as to whether they select for CWD, which there has been some previous evidence that they do out of Colorado. More importantly, does that have an impact on the population, good, bad, or indifferent? I don't have that answer for you yet, but we know there is some selection for CWD positive animals.
Thank you, Representative Provenza. Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, do you know when mountain lions were last managed as predators?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, so they reclassified from predators to game animal in 1973, with the first hunting season established the year of my birth, 1974, aging myself here.
Thank you, Director. Representative Worf.
Thank you, and I guess the reason I just asked that is because I want everybody to understand, there's been a lot of messages sent around. Some of them were a little curt that I didn't appreciate. And I just want to say this because it needs to be said. They were managed as predators up till 1973, and they weren't extirpated. Mountain lions do a very good job of surviving and avoiding humans. And I just want to say that because I think it's important to understand that. But by no means do I want you to construe that what I'm saying says that justifies this. I think the committee's got to look at the studies that have been in place, the knowledge that we've gotten. I'm obviously, as a wildlife biologist, I'm probably going to lean more in favor of collecting data as opposed to just throwing it open. But I think it's important that we do take an honest look. And I guess that's what I'm hoping comes from this. I'm not really looking to pass this legislation, but I do want to bring it to a head. We have a problem with our mule deer, and I know the department's doing what they can, but I know sportsmen are getting very frustrated that, and it's been going on. In fairness for the committee, some of you may not hunt, but mule deer have been in decline, not just in Wyoming, but west-wide since 1974, which is kind of coincidental to when we started doing all this. But I do know that it's been in a constant downward trend. And I think that's what sportsmen are trying to say. We've always had hard winters. We've always had predators. We've always had some habitat impacts. What is happening with our mule deer? I know as a biologist, 110% productivity rate's what we used to get. I mean, people would die to be able to have that type of
Representative Wharf,
productivity.
are we getting to a question?
Yes, we are. What is the department doing, Mr. Chairman, to deal with our productivity rates? That's, to me, the issue. And I would ask, what is the current statewide productivity rate of mule deer in the state of Wyoming? If you have that, I'm not sure, that might be unfair to throw that out at you right now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, I can maybe turn that over to Chief Smith in a minute, but I do want to address what you sort of talked about, which is the understanding that our mule deer numbers are not where we want them to be, and the population is hurting. The snapshot on mule deer I passed out to you is one of those ways of communicating to our public that there is a lot going on. There's a lot of different stressors on them. Could predators in some incidences in some places be one of them? Absolutely. Do we know CWD and other diseases are having their effect? You named it all: fragmentation, access to food, quality of habitat. If we had that perfect solution, we would be doing it. The department is highly committed to restoring mule deer populations. We are seeing better fawn survival from the bad winter. We will see more mule deer, we think, on the landscape over the next couple years, but long-term, we have to do more. I think I talked to you guys a few meetings ago about the listening sessions that we did across the state this fall. Over 500 people came to those, talked about those local considerations. We have a lot of strategies we can employ, but we want to get it right. And we want to spend our limited funds in the right place to make the biggest impact. This is not unique to Wyoming. It's happening across the West. We have something bigger at play. It might be a perfect example of, just like death by 1,000 cuts. It definitely is. It's not one thing. But just so you're assured that the department is aggressively working on trying to reanalyze what we're currently doing and putting a plan together how we move forward so we can be more effective.
Thank you, Director Bruce. Chief Smith, any additional comments?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Wharf, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I can get that for you. You have it in front of you. I was going to say right around 60% is where, if you're above that, you can grow mule deer populations. If you're below that, they start declining. That varies from herd to herd as well. But as you know, we have been trying to do different things. If we can figure out how to grow fawns, that's great. And so, some of the things that the commission has done and wildlife managers have done is try to reduce doe harvest to try to make sure we're not impacting that side of the population. But all the things that Director Bruce mentioned, deer have a challenge.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To go back to my question, Dr. Thompson, I asked, I guess, about CWD, but can you speak to what mountain lions eat generally? Maybe you have more information on that.
Doctor.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Representative Provenza. Yes, thanks for the question. We've studied diet composition in a few different areas in Wyoming, and it depends on where you're at. And obviously, it's more nuanced than one thing per week. In the Rock Springs area, we separating between males and females. An adult female does eat upwards of 40 or more deer a year, but a lot of those are also young of the year. An adult male eats almost the same amount of elk a year as they do mule deer. They also eat porcupines, golden eagles. Coyotes was a fairly prevalent part of their diet, which is a huge, or not huge, is another potential predator for other species. So they generally eat about one ungulate type deer-sized animal a week, but it's not always deer. And it's very important to look at the differences between the size or the age of the animals that they're eating and things like that. But yes, they do eat deer, and they're very good predators. They know what they're doing, but you have to determine whether it's compensatory or additive to the population.
Thank you, Doctor. All right, committee, Representative Storr, we're coming down on a tight timeline,
Sorry,
and
we're gonna
people travel
try to-
from all over
try
the
to get
state,
there.
and I think your email's seen a few opinions too, so.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman, to Director Bruce and Chief Gabe Morton Smith. Certainly in the 20 or 30 years I've been talking to Game and Fish about ungulates, the answer has always been, for the most part, this is about a habitat issue. And I don't think that has changed since then. If you would articulate quickly what the challenges are in front of Game and Fish for trying to increase mule deer habitat, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, thank you for bringing it back to habitat because it is the core foundation of all wildlife populations. Articulate it quickly. Well, quality, Wyoming is very fortunate that we have the largest amount of intact landscape left almost anywhere in the lower 48, so pretty incredible. However, we're starting to see things, cheatgrass take over. That's lowering the quality of habitat. Fragmentation by anything, any sort of development, roads. So having those stressors where mule deer are trying to get across the road to valuable habitat, having crossings to help with that. So again, just looking at quality habitat more than anything, we're lucky that we have the quantity here, but continuously making that habitat the most resilient as possible. So then when we have these other stressors, CWD, predators, bad weather, that they can bounce back very quickly because they have the healthy forage that they need.
Thank you, Director. All right, we're going to open it up to public comment. First, we are going to ask those that are in favor of House Bill 286. Please come up in favor of the bill, and we're going to limit this to 10 minutes. There is someone online. If Mr. Shell could get ready to get queued into the room. Anyone here in the room in favor of House Bill 286? Please fill the chairs. Okay. Tanner, can we look to if Mr. Shell would still like to comment on the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see him online right now.
Okay. Please, come on up if you are here to speak in favor. Public comment is open. Okay. We are gonna go to those opposed to the bill. Now, I'm gonna let those online and those here know, we are gonna go with about 15 minutes. One of you can talk for 15 minutes, or 15 of you can talk for 1 minute. That's public school math. And certainly I'm gonna open it up to online. So yeah, if you are here and have traveled a long ways, please come on up, fill the chairs, and those that aren't in the chairs, fill the chairs behind. House Bill 286, fill the chairs, yep. This is opposition now. And I am gonna be keeping a timer, folks. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Let's go from our right, your left. Push the button, make sure it's green, and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. honorable committee. My name is Corey Rutledge, and I am a retired attorney, married to a third-generation Wyoming ranchman and attorney. And we both joined the Cougar Fund in early 2000s when it was formed. At that time, there had been a great event in Jackson, and the Wyoming Game and Fish was also seeking input from stakeholders to develop the Wyoming Mountain Lion Management Plan, which is in existence today, which, as Director Bruce commented, is very mobile. We oppose simply gutting the ability of Wyoming Game and Fish to do the job they have done well in the last 20 years, which is to manage mountain lions. Someone asked when mountain lions were first considered to be trophy game, and of course that was 1973. So from 1882 to 73, we could kill mountain lions whenever. I am from a hunting family. I'm a Republican, and I am not anti-hunting. I am pro-game management, and I am sympathetic to the plight of the mule deer. Many of you have probably seen the great article.
Ms.
in
Rutledge, we
Cowboy
are at
Daily.
over a minute now. I appreciate that. We
Okay.
have about 40 people behind you.
Okay,
So,
that's a great
and
draft. I'll send it to you.
please do. Thank
very
you so much for speaking today. Thank you for coming to the House TRW. Go ahead and introduce yourself and welcome to House TRW.
Chair, representatives of the committee, my name is Luke Worthington. I'm the president of the Wyoming Houndsman Association. I'm here today to tell you to ask for your no vote. This is an eradication bill. It does not follow the North American model of wildlife conservation, nor does it go on with the wildlife, sustainable wildlife triangle. This bill is a perfect example of ballot box biology, which is stripping Game and Fish Department of all regulations, quota seasons, and areas. We have the best carnivore department in the state of Wyoming and in the United States. They collect data on a 3-year cycle, and it involves public comment. Going legislation on a bill like this takes all the public comment away from the sportsmen. These associations here testifying on the scene, we are the sportsmen. You're gonna hear from everybody, deer hunters, lion hunters, everybody. This is a public comment and is not done right. It needs to be in the hands of the Game and Fish and the Game and Fish Commission. Thank you for your time. I'll stand for questions.
Well timed. Thank you. Appreciate it. Committee, any questions? Thank you for traveling down here today. Wish I could give you more time, but we are running into a Friday deadline.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Lee Livingston, Wyoming Outfitters and Guides Association President. We had very robust discussion on this bill within my board. There are quite a few who are in favor of it. Some are being quite impacted, they feel, by excessive lion numbers. In the end, we came to the conclusion that wildlife management is better left in the hands of wildlife managers. There have been many in this building that have railed against biology from the bench. We don't want to see our season starting to be set by legislation rather than wildlife managers. Thank you very much.
Mr. Livingston, thank you. Committee, any questions of Mr. Livingston? Seeing none, appreciate you. If you are here to speak in the room today, please come fill up the chairs behind these folks, fill up the remaining chair. Let's go from my right, your left. Introduce yourself. Welcome to House TRW.
Chairman, members of House TRW, Josh Menton, Wyoming Field Manager from the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. I've had really amazing experiences getting to work with our expert scientists and that are doing work on the ground here in Wyoming. I went out numerous times catching deer for the Wyoming Range Deer Study, collaring deer, which this research is set up specifically to understand things like predation. And science-based management of wildlife is the foundation of how we should be doing our work here. And so the TRCP stands in opposition to this bill, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Well, under a minute, appreciate that. Ms. Johnson, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jess Johnson, Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I'm just going to say ditto to everything that's come before. We stand in opposition to this bill. The one thing I would add is if this bill was not about lions, would we be comfortable with it? because it's setting a precedent on, if we can do it with lions, we can do it with anything else. And we don't want that precedent set, and that is why we are in opposition.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Committee, any questions of Ms. Johnson? Continue on. Introduce yourself, tell us your age and where you're from. Welcome to TRW.
Mr. Chair, my name is Colton Schick. I'm a Wyoming native, and I am 17 years old, attending East High School. I stand in opposition against this bill, as I urge you to vote no on it. It undermines the essential management authority of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. The commission has established a science-informed public process for setting hunting seasons and developing regulations that accommodate the specific species accordingly. By bypassing this established process, we risk compromising wildlife management practices that are based on sound scientific principles. Furthermore, there is no evidence increased lion take will benefit mule deer population. Once again, I ask you to stand for no on House Bill 286. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Provenza, do we have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, thank you for your testimony today, and hopefully you'll follow the footsteps of Representative Haroldson and come run for office.
Now get back to class. Really appreciate you. Thanks for coming for TRW. You've testified in front of us before and really appreciate that. Anyone else in the room?
Add one quick thing, just, you guys are sitting with the youth inductee to the Wyoming Outdoor Hall of Fame. And it is because of all of the work that he has done and all of this sort of engagement. So I sure hope he does run for office.
Appreciate that, Ms. Johnson. Thank you. Congratulations on that. Last one in the room, and then we're going to go to the Zoom. Mr. Garrett, welcome to House TRW.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that welcome. I appreciate it. Members of the committee, my name is Richard Garrett. I'm here today representing the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, and I think you're familiar with our mission to protect the ecosystem. I think it's important to remember that mountain lions play a key role in ecosystems. As an apex predator, they regulate prey populations, they reduce invasive species, they increase biodiversity, they improve soil fertility, and they provide food for other animals. I think there was a question about research by the Wyoming Game and Fish Department and the Commission, and they have worked with Dr. Kevin Monteith now for several years on studies of the Wyoming range, mule deer population, and there are a variety of things that go into impacts to fawn survival, and everybody wants fawns to survive, but they've collected data from nearly 500 fawns and have been continually monitoring their survival for at least 10 years now. And fawn survival varies from year to year, and the primary factors causing mortalities also change from year to year. Disease, predation, and stillbirths all have a primary cause of fawn mortality during the years of their study. So we're working on this. I appreciate the sentiment of the bringers of the bill, for sure. I think that their intent, if I understood Representative Wharf correctly, was to send a strong signal to the department and to the commission. I have no doubt they've received that signal and will continue their extraordinary efforts to help our mule deer population rebound. With that, I'd stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Committee, any questions of Mr. Garrett? Hearing none. All right, anyone else in the room, please come up. If not, we're gonna go to online. Go ahead, Tanner, with this big list. Let's just start letting folks in, and I will try to see their names on Zoom. Folks, as you come in, I'm gonna start with Ms. Maldonado.
Mr. Chairman, I do not see Ms.
Okay,
Maldonado.
Miss Leslie Lowe, please introduce yourself and unmute your mic, and we are gonna go with 1 minute here, so please keep your testimony to 1 minute.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Committee Chairman Byron, for the opportunity to voice our opposition to House Bill 286. I'm Kara Leslie Lowe, and I co-founded the Wyoming-based Cougar Fund. We stand aligned with all the previous comments that have come. At the core of what we do is advance sound science and wildlife conservation, and we share a robust, diverse membership that includes houndsmen, game hunters, and people who just love wildlife. I'm going to use my time to go over a couple of those pillars that were alluded to earlier in the North American model of conservation and how this bill does not support that model. 1, wildlife is a public resource and held in public trust. Government, by the people, for the people, at various levels, must ensure the long-term sustainability of wildlife populations. 3, allocation of wildlife by law. Access to hunting is through legal mechanisms. 4, wildlife can only be killed for legitimate purposes, and science is the proper tool. We support the Wyoming Game and Fish. We support the research they're doing, and we come alongside asking for you to vote no to House Bill 286. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie Lowe. That was spot on. Appreciate those comments. Committee, any questions? Thank you for joining us today. Go ahead and we'll go and let the next testifier in. It's going to be
John Masterson.
Mr. Masterson. Good to see you. Please introduce yourself to the committee and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is John Masterson. I'm out of Casper, Wyoming. I thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments. I'm fortunate to be one of your Game and Fish commissioners, but first, it's important for you to know I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission or on behalf of any other commissioner. This is just me, and I'll talk fast and be as quick as I can. I respect the sincerity of the sponsors and their desire to reinvigorate our mule deer. I want more mule deer too. But I urge you to rely on science and our experts who are preeminent in their fields to address this. When it comes to season setting, I want to underscore that there is a very detailed process that the commission goes through. It includes public comment of the draft regulations, written ones. We review each one of those. We read them and the department's responses. We hold a public meeting, get public comment live and electronically. And I believe we're thoughtful and considerate of all those perspectives, even though, like legislators, we seldom make everyone happy. I want to make you aware of that because
We are over a minute now. I appreciate you coming on. We have a long list of folks that are also joining us. I
Understood.
really appreciate. Wish we could see you in person. Look forward to seeing Cheyenne soon. Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. We're going to go to Mr. Corsi. Mr. Corsi, go ahead and try to turn your video on. You're unmuted and you have 1 minute. Welcome to House TR. Oh, disappeared. Okay, we'll try to get him back in the room.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman Byron, can you hear me?
Gotcha. Go ahead. You got 1 minute, Mr. Corsi. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Chairman Byron, Co-Chairman Harshman, members of the committee. I'm sorry, I can't get the video to work, but I'm going to use my minute wisely and not try to figure that out. What I would like to share with you is that everybody that has spoke before in opposition to this, if I would have known that this testimony would have been so strongly indicated by so many talented people, including 17-year-old Colton Schick, then I would have not scheduled this afternoon to wait for this opportunity. But I would like to tell you, as a conservation group that is focused on mule deer, there is no greater concern for us than mule deer. And then when the notion is made that this is a mule deer bill, it's alarming, to say the least. I guess what I would want to impress upon you more than anything is that sound wildlife management must be the beacon for how we as a state operate. We have those processes in place with our Game Commission. I think we have a world-class Game and Fish Department and Game and Fish Commission. And I think those answers, that is probably what is the motivator for this bill. There is concern.
Thank you.
There is wonder.
Thank you, Mr. Corsi. Really appreciate it. And yeah, got to your minute. So appreciate that testimony. Who do we have next?
We'll have Aaron Curlin next.
Mr. Curlin, welcome to House TRW. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and your minute begins.
Good afternoon. My name's Aaron Curlin. I'm from Wheatland, Wyoming. I'd just like to echo what pretty much everybody else said in regards to this bill. I'd also like to add that extirpation of one species to help save another is not conservation. And I strongly urge you to vote no on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin. Any questions, committee, of Mr. Curlin? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Kristen Combs.
Ms. Combs, as you go ahead and let yourself in the room and unmute yourself. Try to turn your video on.
Okay, video's not working, but that's fine. I'll just go ahead and say, I'm Kristen Combs. I'm the Executive Director of Wyoming Wildlife Advocates. Very rarely do we see an opportunity where so many people that care about wildlife have all come together to really talk about, all of the principles of wildlife held in the public trust and involving public in the process and making sure that wildlife management is run correctly. And so we would just ask that you vote no on this bill due to the fact that all of the comments today have been spot on about mule deer are important and are something we care about here, but so are mountain lions, and we would like to see the process remain as it is and not run from the legislature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. Thank you for being here from the western side of the state. Always appreciate that. Looks like we have Mr.
Joe Candelas will be the last one, Mr. Chairman. Rest declined or not online.
Okay. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your minute begins.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you guys for letting me jump on here real quick. I represent, my name is Joe Candelas, and I represent the American Bear Foundation. We just wanted to jump on and voice our opposition to this. While we are a bear organization, most of our members are lion hunters and deer hunters, myself included. And we just ask that you let the best large carnivore team in the country do what they do best and listen to the science and heed their recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Condelas. And committee, any questions? All right, anyone else in there, Tanner?
No, Mr. Chairman, the rest either declined or
Okay,
online.
good job getting through that. Anyone else in the room? One last bite of the apple in opposition. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and hand it back over to the committee. Committee, what's your pleasure on House Bill 286? House Bill 286 is indefinitely postponed due to lack of a motion. Thank you, committee. Thank you, everyone that joined us today. It is 2:54 and House TRW is done early for the record. And we have one more meeting on Thursday. Please join us upon noon adjournment. Thank you, committee, for all your work, and thank you to the agencies and folks that traveled all the way to testify today. We'll see you upstairs.